By story, I don't just mean what's happened to you. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the failures, the lessons you learned from those, the body of wisdom and expertise that you've accumulated throughout your life. Understand that your story is about you, but your story is not for you. And understand that when you walk on that stage, our tendency is to, let me tell you what's on my heart and my mind and talk about me, instead of intentionally flipping that and saying, this isn't about me. I mean, it is about me, but it's not for me. I'm here to make this available for you. This is something John Maxwell does so well. He calls it putting the cookies on the bottom shelf.
Welcome back to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DiCioccio, and our guest today is the founder and chief story architect of Story Builders, a creative team dedicated to helping people live a story worth telling and serving others through genuine, high-trust relationships. Story Builders helps leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries turn their ideas into compelling books and learning experiences that create greater impact, influence, and income. Welcome to the show, Bill Blankschaen.
Mike, what a pleasure to be here. Love talking story, and especially with you, because I know you're a fan of story. So looking forward to it.
Huge fan of story. So I actually went to school for media production and studied film and story and screenwriting. And so I love movies and film. And I think we were talking candidly off camera, I envision life very much like a storybook. Right?
Sure.
Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I just told you off camera too, I celebrated my 40th birthday. So I'm trying to figure out where I am in my chapters as far as we don't know when our end date is. That's life.
Sure.
But the cool part about it is the perspective of a good day, a bad day, a really bad day, the best day of our life. Tomorrow there's a blank page. And Absolutely. So I really love that idea of we get to tell our own stories. I'm going to pick your brain today. And a lot of our audience members are early stage entrepreneurs, business people, those that are looking to level up. And the way that we've done it, I've done this now over 280 plus episodes, is through amazing stories of people who walk the walk, not just talk the talk and puff out their chest, but walk the walk. So welcome to the show. And I know you have an amazing story yourself that we're going to share. I got your website, your social media, and mystorybuilders.com linked in the show notes. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube, it's there, clickable in the description. So Bill, let's kick right into it, man. You've worked with some incredible people. Lewis House, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He was a major inspiration for me becoming an entrepreneur and launching this show. Very similar mindset into the School of Greatness. And so I know you got a chance to work with him. But since today's talking about stories and impactful stories, every great story has a beginning. So can you share, was there a specific moment in your life where you realized the power of story and maybe where something in you shifted and you knew, hey, this is part of my calling?
That's a great question. There absolutely was. There was a time when I was leading a private school and I'd helped start it, had poured my life into it, my passion into it. And I was doing good work. I was helping, getting hugs from kindergartners every morning. I was helping teenagers navigate life choices and kind of in the trenches with families, doing good things. But inside, I felt like there was something more. There was like this hardwired calling in my life that I was to be a writer, that I was to be a storyteller. And I had always thought of myself as that. But I realized I wasn't actually doing it. I was doing good things, but not the things that only I could do and deliver the greatest value. And so I finally came to the point where I had to decide, all right, I either got to devote myself to the school and go all in here, or I need to step away from the school and go all in on this sense of calling. And I didn't want to look back years later and regret it and think, what if I had done that? Because I think it's important. We had 6 kids, and I think it's important for kids to see that modeled to them of somebody who is authentically following what they believe they're put on this earth to do. And so I made the decision. We stepped away from the school, stepped into the unknown to follow this. calling and what that would look like. We went a year with no income and 6 kids. That was a fun, looking back on it now, a fun season of life. And but
I'm
I
going
never
to
worked
jump in
harder.
because you're being
Yeah,
humble. I want the audience
yeah.
to know. Is this a school back in 2000, right? You were there from 2000 to 2012?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
yep,
yeah. So it was a Christian academy, right?
it was. Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that's the same one you're
Yeah.
talking about that you started. So
Yeah.
you're being humble. I mean, you're like, hey, started it, worked a little bit. No, 12 years you were there. You started
Sure.
off as a teacher, right? You were teaching writing and literature and storytelling. Then
Yep.
you became, I believe, the dean of students. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, every hat there was to wear, I wore it. I was athletic
Yeah.
director. I was
And the
coach. I
principal
was
at one
dean of
point.
students, principal of the whole school. We grew to a
Right.
K4 through 12 college prep school. It was a really good school.
You were
Candid.
all in. You were all
Oh
in
yeah,
for 12
absolutely.
years. And then you had this heart tug. And so what did that look like? You
Well,
said you
and
took
it
a
wasn't.
year off, no income, and then where did it go from there?
Yeah, I mean, a part of that was, during that year, and this is where I think for people who are aspiring entrepreneurs or starting something new, I think they often miss. I think we underestimate how difficult, how challenging those initial steps can be. And when we step out and we meet that resistance, we get discouraged, we quit, we throw up our hands. But we miss the fact that that's all part of the process to go through anything new. You talk about it's almost the curve, the growth curve at the beginning of anything. So, when I was in that, I remember a day when I was sitting out in the backyard and trying to write a book idea and develop a book idea, and just me and pen and paper, and the birds are singing, sun's shining, beautiful day on the outside, but on the inside, I mean, I'm wrestling with every fear there is. Are we going to be able to pay the mortgage this month? Are we going to be able to put food on the table? Are we going to live under a bridge somewhere in a cardboard box soon? Right. But I kept going, and I
And
kept
your
working.
wife was supporting you through this? She understood.
Absolutely.
She understood the
Absolutely.
mission. Yeah. And how old
And
were your kids at that point?
boy, they were probably like 12, 13 to 6 years old, somewhere in that
Wow. I mean,
range.
this is full on total
Yeah.
responsibility. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
that's called dedication. That's a lot of entrepreneurs have that thing. And we have that thing where nobody understands exactly how or why we could fight for something. We don't know that it's going to
Right.
work or not, but
Right. Right. Right.
we know that we're not going to give up.
Well, and
We
that's
know
what
we're not going to give up.
yeah, and that's why I think of it. I thought of it as my story. Like I'm dedicated to living out my story, to leaning into my authentic calling, to living the best story that I could live based on who I am and who I was, and why I'm here on this earth. And here's what I learned. Like I kept persisting through that, and I kept pushing through that, and what I came to realize was that there was a whole business model behind this of doing what I love to do. And maybe my biggest takeaway was that my breakthrough began when I started with my story. Like when I was willing to really engage my story, lean into that, commit to that's when breakthrough began. Because when I first set out, I didn't set out thinking, oh, I want to work with Lewis Howes to write his books, or I want to work with
Mhm.
John Maxwell or Dean Graziosi or whoever.
Yeah.
I didn't set out to do that. I set out to do what I love to do. And it's that passion and commitment to that talent that keeps you going through those hard times, through those challenging times, and then causes you as you move forward to see things differently and to uncover opportunities you never even dreamed existed before. But it begins when you are able to lean into your story and be true to that.
You've worked with so many people. You just named a few of them that are great. John Maxwell's like
Sure.
the godfather of great books and
Yeah,
storytelling
sure,
and inspiration. And Dean's great. Lewis is awesome.
sure,
I mean, those are three examples, and you got dozens of people like that you've worked with.
sure.
So now you know your own story. You've seen their great stories. I mean, you literally were teaching Bible studies, the most inspirational and greatest stories of all time.
Sure.
You know what goes into a great story. So what in your mind separates just a good story, hey, that's pretty good, to a great transformative story? And we're not just talking about
Yeah,
like
yeah,
films or
yeah,
books or fiction,
yeah.
but like someone's on stage sharing their story. What
Sure.
separates it to really hit home
Yeah,
in
well,
your opinion?
I think it's an important distinction to make when we're talking about story. We're talking about people who are sharing their story, and by story, I don't just mean what's happened to you. I mean, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the failures, the lessons you learn from those, the body of wisdom and expertise that you've accumulated throughout your life.
Hmm.
And I think in order to present that well, one of the most fundamental things that people get wrong, that if we have to get it right, is that understand that your story is about you, but your story is not for you. And understanding that when you walk on that stage, our tendency is to, let me tell you what's on my heart and my mind and talk about me, instead of intentionally flipping that and saying, this isn't about me. I mean, it is about me, but it's not for me. I'm here to make this available for you. This is something John Maxwell does so well. He calls it putting the cookies on the bottom shelf, right? Making it simple for people to engage, right? So it's that idea of intentionally following a process that pulls out the best of your story and then packages it and presents it in a way that's actually usable to the people you want to serve, not to everybody, but to the people that you want to serve, so it resonates with them.
So let's take that. And I love, a great interview is when the guest answers my next question. Right? I just had to say here, that was literally my
in a couple minutes if that keeps up.
my next question was, what do people get wrong when they think about, right, how their story can be impactful? And so you unpacked. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you put it that way, one of the things I think people get wrong is they think they don't have a story that's worth telling. They think they don't have anything of value, any body of wisdom, expertise, anything. They think they just don't have anything. And I call that falling into the normalcy trap. The normalcy trap is the fact that because your life and experiences feel normal to you, you think nobody else would value that because I lived that. That's nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And in fact, everybody's the same. Lewis Howes is the same. We were talking, before about Lewis and, being on the couch, his sister's couch, and, his origin story. Trust me, at the time he was living it, he wasn't thinking, this is an amazing story that someone's going to love to hear.
Tell everybody about this. Right. So not only is there a little bit of that imposter syndrome that happens, most people experience. I love that you just said a mistake is that you're writing the story for you. No, you're writing it for everybody else. I mean, it's for you too. You should feel and reflect on it and feel the good, the bad, the ugly, and the purpose behind it, and have those perspectives. But it's for an auditorium of people that you could take, go up and do your TEDx talk, and you got 12 minutes to make these people think or feel or act differently. And so what's your powerful story to tell? It's not for you telling it, it's for them, right? I love that. So now it's like, we understand that's a little bit of the formula behind it, the secret sauce, if you will. But now you want to build it out. Someone's saying, okay, well, what about my struggles? I got great wins to share, and I got many lessons in life to learn, and, crash and burn moments. Sure. How do they now take all of that? That's like it's like a writer writing a screenplay. He's got all these great ideas and characters and all this stuff. How do they turn that into a powerful personal brand or even a business asset over time?
Right. Well, there's no way we can cover all of it. So I highly suggest getting my book, Your Story Advantage, because it walks through all that. That was the purpose behind it. Like I really wanted to pull back the curtain and say, look, for the last 10 years, this is what I've been doing. Let me show you how to do it. But let's give people some practical things that they can really lean into, right? So if you're thinking about this, I would say, first of all, use what we call the storytelling structure. The storytelling structure it's a 5-part process that really just breaks down, through my years of becoming a student of the art and science of storytelling. It breaks down the proven pieces that every good story has to have. You'll find other models out there. I remember that are just more complicated. I remember somebody gave me a book that was like 2 inches thick about how to do storytelling the right way. And I thought, I mean, I'm a reader and I couldn't get through it. So,
I think there's 198 extra pages in this book.
Exactly. It's probably more than that. Yeah. So I broke it down into just this 5-part, because I kept seeing the same proven pattern again and again and again, that I call the storytelling structure. And we use it all the time for creating all sorts of content, whether a brand story or a book or courses or workshops, training, whatever the case may be. It becomes this proven starting point to work from. So if you want, let's just work through the 5, if that would be helpful. Yeah.
Let's do it. I think 5 is good. A podcast audience, whether
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
on the way to soccer practice for their
Yeah.
kids or in the morning on the way to the gym, wherever you are tuning in, I think we can handle 5 right here.
All right, cool. And I won't go into super depth, but I'll get you started here. So the first point is attention. When you're telling a story, it is to make any message matter is attention. And how do you get people's attention? You have to tune into what they really want, right? We're flipping the story. It's about you, but it's for someone else, right? And what does that someone else really want? Now, to do that, you have to get clear on who your audience is also. And it's important to realize you're not speaking to everyone. If you're getting on a stage, your brand, your book, whatever that is, you have to identify who your core audience is. Who are the people that, if you miss everybody else in the world, you better be resonating with these people and make sure that you're hitting them. Because a lot of people just take a shotgun approach and try to hit everybody. And in doing so, they hit no one, right? Because a message for everyone is a message for no one when it comes right down to it, because no one thinks that they are everyone. They all think they're unique, they're special, they come from a certain, and they do, right? And so you have to be willing to sacrifice reaching everybody in order to reach your core audience. The ironic thing is that by reaching that core audience effectively, you actually accelerate faster, your impact and influence faster. You move faster with that group, and then that spreads out elsewhere. So it begins with that first one, attention. What do they really want? And then the second point is tension. What are the problems? What are the challenges that are keeping them from getting what they want? Again, notice it's not about you. The focus isn't on you, it's on them. So what are their challenges? What do they want? And what's keeping them from getting what they want? And so you begin to unpack that. And this is where it's worth the time to really engage with the pain of what they're feeling, right? What are the things they're feeling both externally, like the tangible stuff of life, but also internally, the intangible stuff, the fears, what keeps them up at night as you're trying to engage them. So attention, tension. The third point then is connection. So connection is when you are now connecting your story with what they want and their challenges. And you do it in two ways. One, you need to be able to illustrate that you feel their pain. You have felt what they have felt. You get it, if that makes sense. My friend Rory Vaden likes to say that you're best positioned to serve the person you once were, right? And so often it means looking back in our story and sharing something from our story. But again, it's not about you. It's about sharing something that would be valuable to them in that sense. So connecting in that way, but then also demonstrating that you've found a solution. You've overcome whatever that challenge might be, whatever that sticking point might be.
It's a layer of hope right there in the story.
You're bringing hope. And now people are like, all right, I kind of like you. I trust you because you know how I feel. And you've had the credentials for me to follow you, right? You've done this, this, and this. I think you know what you're talking about. The fourth step in that process then is the solution. And the solution is where most people start and end. This is like, what do you really want to say? What's the central message that you want to share? Most people just jump right to that, say it, and they're done. They'll throw it on their website or they'll say it on the stage, but you miss the whole setup to that people you need to connect and make sure they know that you understand them and that you feel their pain and that you're sharing your story in that context. And now they're open to, well, how can you help me? Tell me the solution here. What is it that you're presenting? And here's a key, especially I know you've got aspiring entrepreneurs in your audience. One key is to make sure that whatever your solution is, you talk about it, name it, whatever that might look like, using language that resonates with what your audience really wants. I was working with a company that had been in existence for many decades, second generation company, very successful. As we were going through the storytelling workshop with them and their team, the light bulbs came on as they realized what they were calling their core services was all about how they thought about their core services. It wasn't about how their customer saw it or how their customer benefited from it. And so they were able to pivot that in order to make it more appealing to their customer and for their customer to think, oh, that is what I want. That's what I do. We do this with book titles all the time as well. So presenting that solution. Now, the thing about the solution part, this is your intellectual property place. This is where you build your ideas that you can then sell and monetize in a lot of different ways. And out of that solution often comes the core idea for a book, which I believe books are your message multiplier, right? So you can really do some powerful things there. And then the final step in the 5-step is action. So we've got attention, tension, connection, solution, and action. And this is simply, what do you want people to do with what you just shared with them? Is giving them a clear path, not leaving it up to them to figure out what do I do with what you've given me. You're the expert on this. Suggest the next best step. And this is going to vary depending on the context, of course. If you're talking to your team in the office, that action is going to be one thing. If you're in a book, it's going to be something else. If you're on a stage, it could be something else. It'll be much more specific, but actually giving thought to making the ask, what do I want you to do? And then communicating that in language that will resonate with what they want, right? So we go full circle to applying the first step. Right. So those are the 5 steps at the highest level. Obviously, a lot more depth to all of them, but just trying to create a win for the person who's driving in the car and on their way to the gym or on the treadmill right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The key there that I took away is getting in the psyche of the audience, right? Who are you delivering the message to, and how is it going to resonate with them? What perspectives, where are they at? And instead of trying to blanket it so a million people would resonate with, like, you're talking to that one person in the audience. It's like almost imagining you're just having a conversation with that one person that you kind of connect with. That's huge. And then I'm also thinking about it from an entertainment standpoint, right? If you don't have their attention is like the currency there. Without that, it's just, okay, that guy, he's up there and he's going on. It's kind of like, I hate to say this, but, I'm a believer, but I grew up Catholic, and my parents, first 18 years of my life, when I lived, at home and everything, I'd go to church with them out of respect for my parents. But man, we had some of the most boring priests. There's some that are entertaining and good that have the good word. But I remember they're up there, they're in front of the whole room, and I have no idea what this person's talking about. They seem authoritative. They know what they're doing, but I have no idea what the stories are. And the problem was they didn't have my attention, right? So it's like a good movie, back in the day, when I say back in the day, like I'm 100 years old, but 40 now. So but
you're almost halfway there, Mike.
No. A lot of great stories to be told, hopefully. But I remember when I was in college and I was learning about, we were watching like Billy Wilder films and stuff. I mean, black and white. They had 7 minutes to get your attention and get you into that action, into that tension you're talking about. It used to be 7 minutes. You don't get 7 minutes on Netflix anymore. You got about 7 seconds. And on social media, you have about 0.7 seconds to get someone's attention. So I love that you say attention, tension right there. You got to have that with the solution at the back end of it. Another word in film is kind of that climax. That's the big part. That's the excitement, the energy behind the whole message. And that's kind of where the light bulb goes off, right? If someone gives a great talk, it's like, oh, you connect it all in your head.
Yeah. And if you think about our own experiences, right? None of us have probably ever thought, man, I want to find somebody who has a really good message that's dull, boring, lifeless, unengaging, because that would be what I want, In fact, I as you mentioned that, I can think of many pastors and church leaders and lots of people, frankly, outside the church setting who have really good messages, but they just don't tell them well, and they can't tell them well.
They don't land.
I've read so many books. Oh my goodness, so many books that just did not have the support they needed to make them engaging and do all that. And you try to read them, and after chapter 1 or 2, you're moving on to other things because they didn't draw you in. They didn't get your attention. It was all about them, all about their ideas, and nothing that resonated with me.
So again, you have a book that walks people through this cover to cover. Where's the best place for people to get that?
They can get it anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, whatever.
Is it better to get it off your website, or can they go to Amazon?
What I suggest is they go to yourstoryadvantage.com, because they can get the book wherever, but they can get a lot of bonuses if they go to yourstoryadvantage.com. We prepared all kinds of things that go with and around that to support it. Bestseller, training and AI training and just all kinds of things that can make it a really cool experience.
Yeah.
So I highly suggest they do that, because the book walks through not just the brand story, but really unpacks how do we create books, just like we did with Lewis. Like his last several books are both New York Times bestsellers. And it's the same process that we use with his books as well. So I designed it that anybody can take that and begin to apply it and begin to create a book that really can be compelling.
And that's part of, someone sharing their story with the right purpose behind it. What about a leader now trying to connect further with their team or, developing businesses? How does great storytelling translate into great leadership, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness. I think they're almost inseparable.
Mm-hmm.
I see storytelling as a force multiplier with leaders. Like if a leader can learn the art and science of storytelling, it's going to exponentially increase their effectiveness as a leader, because leadership ultimately is about connecting with people. And if you can't connect with people, it's going to be very hard to lead anybody. To quote John Maxwell again, he often said that if nobody's following you, then you're just out taking a walk, right? No, you're not leading anything. And people want to feel connected. It's part of the human condition. We want to feel connected, and storytelling is what produces that connection. So one of the free resources we offer with the book, in fact, you could just get it. You can go to yourstoryadvantage.com/free resources, and you can download this. It's a one-page tool that is here's how to use the storytelling structure to make any message matter. So if you're a leader and you're like, hey, this is the message I want to share, but I know I shouldn't just dump it out there. I should be intentional about it. It gives you the 5-step process on a single sheet. You can just kind of keep it handy, pencil it out, work out what you want to say before you say it, right? And help you think through all those components, because it truly is a game changer when you learn how to use those stories effectively. And a big part of it is flipping that script to think about the people that you lead. Where are they at? What do they want? What are the challenges they have? And then and only then is it come into, all right, here's how I connect to that. Can I even understand it? I think a lot of leaders fly in at the 30,000 foot level and think they can just like
everybody should understand what they know, right?
Like drop a message bomb. Yeah,
that I've noticed that a lot with like this, really brilliant. It could be like a scientist or someone, and whatever, they might have a couple minutes to explain something, and they're not realizing to keep the cookies on the bottom shelf,
sure,
like John Maxwell said, where everybody can consume that, right?
Yeah, right.
I remember learning that it's like you want to write it at a 5th grade level, right? Like just to keep it so it's consumable. And that's a great storytellers are able to have the thoughts of that great scientist, but who's their audience?
Yeah.
And how do I make it so it's for them and not for me,
At the very least, you have to start with the simplicity. You can take them to more complex things, but you're going to pull them in and draw them into the conversation with the simple. However, the simple can be very challenging to do. You have to go through the complexity in the middle and the messiness of that to come out with something that's sticky, memorable, and easier to understand, but also original.
And so your template, that free resource they're talking about, it's a little bit of a framework for people to do that.
Yeah, it's a framework for a leader to say, all right, this is the message I want to get across. Let me just use this to pencil that out. Like, what would that look like? And I guarantee it will dramatically improve whatever message that they're trying to get across.
Cool. So a little bit of messaging. We're going to pause for a second. We're going to give a little love to our sponsors. First one is my company, the agency I started years ago, back 7 years ago now, socialchameleon.us. It's my podcast agency. You press record, we handle the rest. Podcasting done for you. We work with a lot of the people that are looking to write a book, that are looking to take their expertise and their greatness and put it not only in a written form, but now they want to do it through podcasts, and a lot of businesses that are sharing wisdom and building relationships with their guests. Go to socialchameleon.us. It's podcasting done for you. And we're recording this on riverside.fm. You said you're in Orlando, I believe, right?
I did, yes.
And I'm up here in Philly. So we're doing this virtually, guys. Yeah. High quality audio, high quality video through riverside.fm. And the audio version of this podcast you guys are listening to this on Apple or Spotify or Amazon Music or however you guys are tuning in, we get it there through Libsyn.com. It's Libsyn.com, Libsyn.com. And if you guys are just getting into podcasting or you want to launch your own show and you want to test it out first before you put any money into it, you can get your first month at Libsyn for free with my promo code. It's Be Great, all together. BE Great. And the first month is on me. So thank you guys for that. We're going to jump right back to Bill here with some rapid fire. You ready to rock and roll?
I am. Look, well, I just want to call out, Mike. I mean, you're doing what you are good at. Like you are modeling what I talked to. Like your breakthrough began when it seems like when you were leaning into, hey, this is what I love to do and what I'm doing. And you had the same experience. Other people are saying, hey, can you help me? And out of this, your business has grown. And because of that, it's awesome.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
I just had an awesome interview previous to this, like the hour before you and I started this one with my friend Russ Hedge. And one of the things I told him is today, and this isn't just rah rah or feel good, but literally today as I record this, I have the same energy and excitement to record my episode 280, whatever this is going to be.
Yeah.
That I did on day one. I remember November 4th, 2019 was my first episode that came out. And I get as excited today as I did then. And so that's how I know I'm doing the right thing. It's pretty easy for me to know because I feel like I'm in the right spot.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And that's how everyone should feel, right? When they're working on the thing that lights them up. People say, oh, it's time to go to bed. Well, when you're in that zone, you're in your greatness, I'm going to go when I feel like I'm done doing the next thing that I'm working on.
I think what you're talking about is the idea that I say that we're all stewards of our story. And so many people just let their lives drift. Mark Twain called it the soap bubble life, that's what life is like for most people. And they just kind of float around for a while, look pretty, and then they pop. Instead of being intentional, and stewarding that story and living out something that's very different, that becomes, for me, that's what it means to live a story worth telling. So kudos to you for chasing after that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. All right, a little rapid fire. I try to keep this part of it a little bit quicker.
Sure.
What's one story? It could be a book, a film, a story on a podcast, personal story that positively impacted your life. Like, what's the biggest one that resonated with you?
I'm going to go back to my younger years. Actually, there's a book I read by a guy who the story wasn't much of anything. It was a story about sweeping a floor, actually. And but it left an impression on me. This young man, he was being interviewed for a job, and he was asked to sweep the floor. And he brought a work ethic mindset to it of whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do it 100% effectively. So he swept that floor like a floor had never been swept. And it was a dirt floor nonetheless. And he still made it as clean as he could. And because of that, they saw the work ethic and they hired him. And it made such an impression on me. So when I went into my first job interview at the age of, I think it was like 14. I think it was 14. And they asked me to sweep the floor. And I said, I know what's going on here. I swept that floor the best I could. And at the end of the day, they offered me the job. Right. So
there you go.
I've continued to learn from that. And that young man's name, by the way, whose story that is Booker T. Washington. Who I think is one of the greatest Americans ever. His book, Up from Slavery, is where you'll find that story.
I know I've heard that story before. I didn't know it was Booker T. Washington's story, but
he's amazing.
It also gave me the perspective when I started the company. I did everything. I wore every hat. And then as I started to be able to delegate that and have a team, and by the way, I mentioned Social Chameleon is not my agency, it's our agency. I have a team. And I wouldn't be able to do everything with them without them. So as you grow as a business leader, it's like, you got to be willing to do everything, right? So then you can, or at least have people who know what they're doing in those different departments that can properly do it the same way as if you did it as the business owner, right? If you were sweeping the floor, you're going to give it the best. You want the bathroom at your establishment to look great. You want the front counter area to look great when people, what's your business look like from the street view, right? What's the curb appeal? So yeah, I think that's a really great story and reflection on, and you learned it at a young age, and I can tell that you live by that, right? You walk the walk. This one's an interesting one. Kind of give us a different perspective on maybe how people change over time. But what's one belief that you held strongly 10 years ago that maybe today is you've completely changed your mind on?
This may sound cynical. I don't intend it to sound cynical though, but one of the things I've realized is I'm a pretty trusting guy. When people tell me they're going to do something, then I trust they're going to do it.
Hmm.
And so because of that, I think it's important, especially 10 years ago when we were early on in the journey, you to believe that something is better, to believe that something is possible. You have to have that belief in order to move forward. But I have seen many times where people would promise something or say they would deliver something and then not do it
Hmm.
and be okay with it. That's the part that gets me.
It seems like
Yeah.
it's more openly accepted today
Right.
to not
Right.
deliver on a
And
promise than 10 years ago, or when I, again, just growing up, it's like you break a promise once, someone maybe gives you a second chance, but you're
yeah.
not getting a
Yeah.
third one, you know?
Yeah, and we always view that just our values as a company too is just if
Yeah.
we're going to do it, we're going to do it well, and if we said we're going to do it, we're going to be true to our word and integrity. We're going to keep our word and deliver those results.
Integrity.
And I've just found out it's so rare. So I think the takeaway from that for anybody who's building something or aspiring to be something is that authenticity, that integrity is critical, and just doing that causes you to be set apart. You stand apart because of that people can actually trust you to deliver what you said you would deliver.
When at one point was this assumed that everybody did it, is now a big value
Yeah.
add to a
Yeah.
company, because like you said, there's too much flakiness going on. I can go on a whole side story, man. I'm a
Sure.
single dad now, and I'll tell you, just in the dating world, there is no the whole trust factor, or the it's okay to just have a conversation on a Monday, and on a Tuesday it's like it didn't even happen, and on a
Yeah. Right.
Friday there's no plans, and it's just,
Right.
but
Right.
it's not me. I talk to my friends and I talk to other people. That is just what it is. There's no repercussions of just being
Mhm.
a flaky. I guess it's the word, best term I can come up. Just not having that integrity to just tell someone, hey, you know what? I decide I'm going to be going out with someone else or whatever. Like, okay,
Sure.
cool.
Sure. Well, yeah,
Transparency, man, it's key, right?
I think it's going to that just being authentic. Being willing to be
Authentic.
authentic, to be true to
Yep.
you, to your story, and be consistent with who you say you are.
Hmm.
And that's really what powers a good story.
Goes back to, on LinkedIn too. Like when you're connecting with people, business connections, it's not just how many can you get. It's
Yeah.
not how many times you can blast it in LinkedIn messages. It's like
Sure.
the real, now you have to deliver when someone says, hey, thanks for connecting with me. All right, actually build a relationship now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just,
Absolutely.
they're not just a number.
Yep.
Um, Going back to this whole idea of life as a story, we have our own amazing stories. We can learn through them, educate and teach them. What if you had to say, life was a book? What chapter do you think you're in right now?
Well, one of my favorite expressions is to say that no matter what you're facing right now, no matter how good or bad or whatever it looks like, is that the story isn't over yet. And I think a lot of times we think we're in the final chapter. We think the story's just it's got about to end and it's not good or whatever. And we lose sight of the fact that we are in process. Like to your point, we're in a chapter. It's not the whole
Yeah.
book. We're in a season. It's something like that. And that we can do small things today that can move us to a better place. Someone once said, I've heard different versions of this. People overestimate how much they can do in 1 year and
Mhm.
underestimate how much they can do in 3 years, or something to that
I
effect.
know Ed Milet says that quite a bit, and that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so we often think, oh, I can't fix this tomorrow. My story's over. And I've just seen this play out in my personal life and my family and people around me that no, if you're willing to keep moving forward to the next chapter and the next chapter, the next chapter, things seldom turn out as bad as you think they will. And they often turn out better, and your story can go a different direction. So what chapter I'm in right now, I don't know, I'm probably in the somewhere deep in one of the solution chapters right now, like
Hmm.
delivering solutions to people to help them do that. But I also recognize that it's a chapter, right? And so there's more yet to come.
As I asked the question, I'm thinking, this can kind of sound like almost like a morbid thing of, okay, well, if you're in the final chapter or whatever, oh, what does that mean? Or if someone's older, and I asked that question. But the thing I realized the second you said it, started answering that question, is we don't only have to have one book for our life to represent our life. Like, think about this. Like, there's people who change careers completely. There's entrepreneurs who have 5 or 6 businesses on average, right? And
Sure.
so in our life, like, you can have your strong work years when you're building that foundation and growing your family and the financial responsibility. And then you could, what does retirement look like for someone? There's so many different, you can have multiple books in your lifetime, is my point. So
Sure.
even though you say I'm at the what was that stage right there that you said?
Yeah, it's kind of a solution.
The solution
delivering
stage.
solution, yeah.
So maybe you're in the solution stage, but that's just of that one book. You can have a whole new, brand new story. Next year, you could start a whole nother business and have a whole amazing new thing that you're doing, which is awesome.
Sure.
So that's a great thing I want to share with anybody who right now, maybe they feel like, maybe I'm kind of wrapping up at the tail end of this. And, man, I've really been working on this for years. Okay. But you could start something completely fresh tomorrow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you say who, if you could think of one person, it could be family, it could be somebody you never met, just a Booker T. Washington, but who's had the single greatest impact on your life, would you say? And what did they teach you?
Single greatest impact.
What comes to mind first?
What comes to mind first is, wow, there's just so many. I'm going to go back to my teen years. Guy who was the pastor of the church, but he was also kind of a teacher. We had a small school setting, so it's kind of almost a mentor kind of figure.
Mm-hmm.
And what he taught me was that it was okay to be me. I'm an introvert, right? So he taught me, you don't have to talk all the time. You can be quiet, you can recharge, and it's okay to. I'm a thinker. He's like, it's okay to think. And you don't have to be like everyone else. Right. And so I would hang out at his house on a Friday night talking about theology and philosophy. I was the weird kid who was doing that. But he taught me it's okay to be me. And I think that's an incredibly valuable lesson.
There's a great quote. It's Oscar Wilde, I believe. Be you, everyone else is taken.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine if the whole idea is we don't want to be robotic. We want to have personality and differences. And that's what makes us all amazing,
Especially as a teenager, the pressure of I need to look like everybody else. Or I need to do everything everybody else does in order to be accepted or cool or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a powerful lesson for me too. It's okay to go against the flow.
And now kids are seeing it on social media from the time they're 10 years old. Like, oh, that's what popular looks like. That's what 1 million views looks like.
Exactly.
And a podcast.
Exactly.
Oh, that's what a guy who gets 1 million downloads per episode looks like. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's what they look like. But who are you? Like, people need and want to hear from you too.
Yeah.
And those vanity metrics don't make them more valuable of a person. I think you actually shared it earlier in this conversation. Yeah, you've worked at the Lewis Houses and John Maxwell and the Dean Graciosis, but for all of those, you have dozens and dozens of other people and authors with amazing stories that are meaningful and inspirational and hit home just as great. But maybe they're not the blockbuster name, and that doesn't make the story any less valid.
Well, and because their story isn't over. Their impact is still broadening. Their impact is still spreading. They're still building those things. I mean, John Maxwell is a good example. He's been at it for decades and decades and decades, right?
Yeah.
A
lot of life experience, and he's just really good at storytelling.
And here's the thing, you, Mike, will be able to, through your story and your experiences, will be able to connect and resonate with someone that John Maxwell won't resonate and connect with as strongly because of the story and experiences. I mean, that's the reality, that you have an advantage, and we all do. We all have an advantage that other people don't. And so recognizing the value of that, and maybe it's 2 people, 5 people, 100 people, 1,000, 1 million, who knows what the impact is. But, at what point is it like not enough?
Right.
Is it, hey, I changed one life? No, that's not enough to get out of bed this morning and do that. Is it 2? Does it have to be in the millions of followers? Does it have to be in the millions in order to have an impact? And the history of the world tells us that real change begins one at a time.
Yeah.
That's how the world changes.
Because that
It always
change, even
has.
if you changed it for one person, now the way that they're acting and living different with the reflection of your light into them, now they're bringing that onto someone
It's
else. You don't even know the end impact.
it's
It's the
multiplying.
domino, it's the
Exactly.
multiplier. I think you said
Exactly.
force multiplier a couple times.
Yep.
That's a good example of it right there.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
know I want to be mindful of time, and I know I have you
Sure.
captive for just about a handful more minutes here.
Sure.
What's one thing, if you didn't answer this yet today, what's one thing that most people misunderstand about good stories or storytelling? Is there something that maybe they just kind of don't get right?
Um, yeah, I like to think of I call it the connection continuum. That is, if you think of a gauge, on one side of the gauge, you have a fresh story, something that nobody's ever heard of. It's just, wow, it's amazing, it's unique. On the other side of the gauge is familiar, a familiar story that feels like I've heard this one before. And we tend to think that we want to be fresh. We want to be something new and exciting and engaging nobody's ever heard of before. But the reality is that being all the way over there on that end of the spectrum actually produces disconnect because people have a hard time connecting with somebody who is so different and out there and unconnected to them. And on the other side, doing too familiar, that produces feels like duplication, right? So you've got
Hmm.
disconnect, you've got duplication. The reality is you need to be somewhere in the middle. And I find that to be so encouraging because when people think, "Oh, my story is not fresh, it's not out there," that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. You need a healthy dose of familiar for
Hmm.
people to connect with, and then a fresh take on that. So I think that's one of the most things we often overlook is we tend to fall into I got to be really out there and different in order for people
Hmm.
to connect with me. And in fact, it's just the opposite. They connect with what they know, and then you can lead them with something different.
That's a good point. I like that idea. Like you want to be somewhere in that sweet spot in the middle
Yeah.
to really connect with the most people. What would you say is a guilty pleasure? Could be anything, a movie, something you do that maybe, you know.
Last couple of years, I've been reading a lot of fiction, actually.
Okay.
Things like, I don't know if you're familiar with the CJ Box, the Joe Pickett series is a favorite of mine. I've read all those, but
Mm-mm.
even like spy thrillers or, things like that. Because I read so much nonfiction as the course of my day that I like to unwind. I'll pull out something that's just pure storytelling fiction
Yeah.
and just let my mind
Our
enjoy it.
brains were designed to have some of that fantasy or that, entertainment, right? It's
Yeah.
okay. Like, I think a lot of times there's entrepreneurs or people that are like, don't waste your time on Netflix and all this stuff. It's like, okay, I get it. If I'm sitting there watching, binge watching and I'm not making
Sure.
sales calls, sure, I get it. But I found in the early days of doing my business, I did cut all that stuff out. I was just like laser focused, but then I basically burned my brain out. My
Yeah.
brain was
Yeah.
like, dude, I just need to like watch something different for a moment.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
not everything needs to be self-help 24/7, right?
You need to have habits and rhythms of recovery, of
Yeah.
restoration, recharge, all of that. Yes, absolutely.
So good, so good. Is there anything, man? We just had a great this thing flew by. I wish I had more time with you.
Sure.
But if there's one more message you want to deliver today, think of that person. If we're on stage right now, row 3, aisle 5,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you're looking at them, and boom, you want to give
Yeah.
that person one message for being with us today. What do you want to give them?
The message I would want them to hear is this: if you want to elevate, you must collaborate. Because what I wouldn't want someone to do is come out of this conversation thinking, that sounds great. Now I have a lot of to-dos. I got to become an expert at this and I got to understand that. And I got to do all this. And now that's even feels like a burden, a bigger burden to bear. And what I've found is that the key is actually find people to partner with that will help
Hmm.
you elevate. You collaborate with them in what you do in the podcasting space, right? Find the people who have the expertise you need. You don't have to become an expert in anything. You have your story. Lean into that, and then find people you can trust to work with who can elevate you by tapping into that expertise as well. And I think that's how you elevate. If you want to elevate, you've got to collaborate.
Yeah, that's great advice right there, guys. Take that right there and run with it. Nothing in life that I've discovered so far in business and relationships happen without collaboration, right?
Mm.
Like you could be a great solopreneur and that's your entire business, I'll tell you what, until you're collaborating and networking and building real relationships with people, it's going to stay limited. I mean, I don't care how great you are at whatever you do. Collaboration is key. And that's why I love doing the show. I get to meet new people.
Yeah.
I never know what comes from it. 6 months from now, you and I might be doing something. Maybe I
Sure.
get on I'll tell you what, when I haven't done the stage thing yet, at some point I'm going to share my story on stage. And once I overcome my imposter syndrome and do that,
Sure.
I will reach out to you because I'm going to watch this interview back and
Yeah.
I'm going to have the notes of, attention,
Yeah.
tension,
Yeah.
and the whole thing. And when I map out what my message is going to be on that stage, it's going to be built out off of your book. I'll read your book. And so I'll happily share that. That'll be a cool moment for me.
That'd be awesome. It'll be great to have that impact.
So guys, thank you so much for being with us all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, the things to do, subscribe on YouTube and make sure you have your notifications turned on. I found out a lot of people that subscribe don't do that. And then they don't even find out when the new stuff hits. So, or you're watching, you love the videos and you forget to hit subscribe. So we love you doing that. If you're on Apple or Spotify, it's super powerful. If you do leave us a review, you can write something, a quick sentence, something from the heart, why you enjoyed the episode or the show in general. That does help us out with visibility. More people like you that want these same messages and stories are going to get them because you do that. So thank you guys so much for being here all the way at the end. Be great and be grateful in all that you do. And God bless.